Okay, so the only reason why I'm covering this topic a lot is because I feel as though this is the number one way black men are veered into white supremacist, Republican, and far-right talking points. So sometimes when I get on TikTok and debate, this video is particularly for these people. An infamous subject in the black community, that especially in the quote-unquote black manosphere and black conservatives, is quote-unquote holding black women accountable. Sometimes when I'm disputing this, people don't understand my arguments, probably because they're being dishonest, muting people, or are politically motivated to not actually break down and discuss this complex issue. But I'm going to make my arguments firm and clear in this video. And I'm also going to channel my inner Cain Skittles, recommend you some FD Signifier, and get right on with this topic. So when people say hold black women accountable, the reason why I dispute it, and even when people say hold black men accountable to an extent, depending on how they're phrasing it, I dispute it because black women are not responsible for the ills, troubles, and mental health problems in the black community. Racism is. And people will already be up in arms saying like, oh, black people blame everything on racism. Give me a chance to explain to you what I mean. So anyways, before we get to that, I want to talk about social issues. Social issues are issues caused and impacted by societal factors, such as social status, economics, race, gender, sexual orientation, leads to certain demographics of people having very unique experiences and problems that they have to solve or deal with. It's not a zero-sum game. Everybody can have a different experience, but at the end of the day, your experiences is still affected by the way society views certain people, different laws and programs put in place, and collective American U.S. culture and the decisions made in the Western world. So to move to the argument that I mainly make is when black men, right? I guess I would make two arguments, which is what I said I was going to do in this video. So the first argument is very easy, and I call this my conservative argument. So you have a lot of black men that will get on the internet complaining and whining about black women being mean to them, about black women being like sort of disrespectful or superficial. But this is not a zero-sum game to be all black women. Anybody of any gender identification and demographic can be superficial, rude, disrespectful, and ignorant. And if you keep encountering people like that, it's up to you as a person to remove yourself from among these people instead of complaining and crying about it. Because that's ridiculous, where, especially with the second argument I'm going to make, we will say all this stuff about personal responsibility and people taking control. But when it's your turn to take control of the people that you hang around and entertain, it falls on deaf ears. And I find that to be ridiculous. This is why I'm a married man. You don't find me at clubs or bars or parties. I'm a married man with a wife and a child. I go work, I go home, hang out with my wife, and that's the end of pretty much almost everything I do besides going skateboarding or, going shopping ever so seldomly. So I think that wraps that up very easily. If you keep encountering people in general that have bad behaviors and high expectations, you need to ask yourself, why do you keep encountering these people instead of blaming everybody else for these people that you keep encountering? So we are going to get to the second half of this argument. There is 0% doubt in my mind. We have an epidemic of mental health problems in the black community. A lot of people in the black community, both men and women, and everybody in between, I said there would be no jokes in this video, but not everybody, but a lot of us deal with anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, ADHD, PTSD, and more psychological problems that are unfortunately not addressed because they're not taken seriously, or we cannot afford the health insurance to go see a doctor to get these things addressed. You will notice that rates, especially among white men and white women, to see therapists and seek psychological help is higher than black people because they have more money, usually have insurance, and more access and less economic barriers to seeing about their mental health problems. And they're also less likely to have them, given white people have a greater socioeconomic disposition over black people in America. So as we move this argument forward, we need to understand the environment that both black men and black women are living in. And I say both in this context because there is no argument you can make about black women that you cannot make about black men. When you say any stereotype about black women, this was often at a time a stereotype drummed up by bigoted white people to make eugenicist arguments about black people. And again, it's not a zero-sum game as is something wrong with our culture and we just need to act right. That's a eugenicist and very ignorant argument. Do some of you really believe that white women that live in mobile homes or that grow up in the ghetto, just like black people do, are going around giving every man that they see hugs and becoming a snow bunny? If you believe that, you're out of your mind. So to close my argument, pretty much, what is causing the degradation of mental health in the black community as we see black individuals acting out in public and also similarly situated white people on the socioeconomic ladder? The reason why is because poverty and crime, especially after the start on war on drugs, has taken a hold on the black community, along with all the institutional barriers that were previously put in front of us, along with all the crises that were created because of the war on drugs and other policies that led to an epidemic of imprisonment and impoverishment in the black community. And this can range from being redlined into poor neighborhoods. This can range from the school to prison pipeline. This can range from the drug war initiatives that led to a lot of black men, especially a lot of black fathers, being locked up in prison for minor drug offenses. And the moms happen to struggle a lot harder and becoming jaded over the years because of the oppression that the system dishes out on black men and black women. Because you live in a scenario where a racist society is literally disempowering and taking your men from you and saying that you're genetically inferior to white women or women of other races. Also, this trauma affects black men. This is a cycle of hurt people hurting people, not a cycle of so-called culture. It is not a cycle of a certain race being better than another. It is a cycle of hurt people hurting people, because you could have a jaded black man harm or abuse a black woman. She develops mental illness. She takes it out on the next person. And then, he takes it out on the next person. This reminds me of back when I was in high school, and I used to get talked about a lot by some of the people who I would view in a certain light. But then as I went home, did a lot of research on problems in the black community, and I became a black leftist, and I tried to understand how deep the socioeconomic damage and psychological damage to the black community is. I understand why these women acted the way that they did. Not that I don't hold them accountable for the things that they did, but I also understand the environment they could have possibly grown up in and what led them to act and behave a certain way. This video is ironically missing a lot of context. I recommend the Baby Boy analysis by FD Signifier. FD Signifier talking about black masculinity, or Pill Boy's analysis on Do Black Women Like Black Nerds for more context and breakdown of these very complex issues. If I ever get comments on this video with people questioning me and want more context on a certain given subject matter, I'm available. But the problem in the Black community is that racism has created a mental health crisis in our community and a cycle of hurt men hurting women and hurt women hurting men. And that's the end of this video. If you need any more context, I'm available.